What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin, not a good photographer, and it has been almost 2 years since the last time I put up a video, which is entirely too long, so I figured it was about time. I just launched the new website, which I'm hoping you've probably seen. If not, check it out, fortunavista.com. I'll put a link in the description below. And yeah, so the topic of today's video is, as you can probably guess, finding those hobbies and getting back with them. You know, life can get in the way, as it certainly did with me. Work can get crazy and life can get insane, but it's important to always make time for them after a while. So yeah, with this channel I've decided to make it a priority again, and here we are. So tonight I decided to take a drive out to Drumheller, and the weather is absolutely gorgeous. It's like 25, 26 degrees here. It's just perfect weather. There's tons of people out here taking photos and checking out the hoodoos. And so I'm gonna walk around here and see what I can find. Let's take a walk. So after walking around for about 2.5 minutes, I found a perfect composition. Up against the wall of the canyon that we're in here, there's some really beautiful coloration of the different sedimentary rock layers. And so I don't know if the camera is going to show it here, but just kind of in and around here, there's kind of two different jut outs, one for the midground, one for the background, and then just right in the foreground here there's some nice grass as a foreground interest. So just really simple settings, 1/100th of a second at f8. I'm going to take this, and thankfully with the Olympus camera we got the high res mode, so we're going to do this at 50 megapixel. Do that, and then yeah, that is one beautiful photo. And so we're going to head back to the studio and see what we can do with it. So I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we were on our way home. I was about ready to give up. I was happy with that last shot, but then I figured I wanted to see if there was one more thing I could get. And so I climbed this really big hill and managed to find what I would consider this absolutely gorgeous shot of this, I don't even know how to describe it, this kind of dried mudslide with some beautiful mid and background interest. The colors are beautiful. The sun was just setting. This is definitely going to be the image that we go back and edit. The settings that I used were 1/20th of a second at f8. It's slightly underexposed, which is, I mean, fine. It's only a point, 2/3 of a stop underexposed, which is fine. We can bring that up in Lightroom when we get back. But I'm so excited that I was able to find something like this that I had to come and share my excitement before we got back to the studio. So now we are definitely going back to the studio. This is definitely the shot we're editing. I am so excited. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that can re-energize a hobby, even after being gone for 2 years. So let's go back to the studio. It's like an hour-and-a-half drive. I will see you back there. See you then. Studio. This is the photo that I was just talking about, and it is by far my favorite photo that I've ever taken. Now, it might not look like much right now. It looks a little flat, pretty dull. I promise we're going to make it better because it is the day after. It's about 7 o'clock at night. I've had a day to sleep on it. Spent some time earlier today playing around with it, and this is what I was able to come up with. So it has a lot of potential. I promise we're going to make some stuff good with it. Now, before we get started, I just want to say I'm at a brand new desk. It is extremely different than what I'm used to, so I apologize if I'm not as fast as I typically am, so just bear with me. So I apologize, but let's hop into this here. So the first thing that I want to do, we're just going to work our way down the panel here. I'm just going to hide these away because we don't need them and they're just going to get in the way. So there we go. Okay, so the composition itself, let's just talk through the composition before we start getting into the settings. I believe it has really good, what I would consider, bones. It's got some great foreground here with this bush or brush here. It's got great leading lines in this dried mud leading into the midground here, this little S curve in here. Then this plateau in the midground right here where there's grass. This is actually like a flat level. It's kind of hard to see because the camera wouldn't go any higher. This is actually like a flat plane up here. And then in the background, it's got this beautiful kind of grassy covered background here, whatever you want to call it. I think this is great. This is exactly what I was going for. And it was, the best part about it was I didn't have a lot of time to think. I wasn't thinking about the rules of thirds, any other real rules other than how can I make a great photograph in 20 seconds because the sun was setting. So I'm really, really happy with this shot. So let's make it perfect. So right now, it might not look like it, but the highlights are a little bit overblown. Maybe not overblown, but they're a little higher than I'd like. So I'm just going to bring them down, let's say about minus 40, mid 40s or so. And then when we get deeper into it, I do still want to bring some contrast. So I'm going to keep some, take away some of the shadows as well to give a little bit of contrast as well. And then again, with the blacks, bring the black point down just a hair to like minus 13, 14 kind of thing. All right. Now, in the present section, I really want to bump up the texture and the clarity because what that's going to do is it's going to bring out the texture in this the mud, the dried mud here. So as we bring that up, you're going to see it really kind of crackle and it's going to really look awesome. So bring that into the kind of the mid 50s, and then same with the clarity. We'll do kind of a mid 30s. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. All right. And then the dehaze, the cloud, or sorry, the sky is really clear. That was really clear last night, with the exception of just a little bit of clouds, at least the direction that we were looking at that way. So just want to bring that up just a little bit to give everything just a little more punch, I guess you could call it. I don't really like that word as much as a lot of photographers use it, just to give it a little more color contrast. And then the vibrance, this is where we're going to see a lot of the color kind of pop out of this image. So I'm going to bring this up quite a bit to around maybe like kind of the 40-ish range. Let's go 41, yeah. And then add a little bit of saturation too, so maybe around 14, 15, 13, sure, that works. All right, so already this image is a lot more colorful, which is great. The one thing is, if you were actually there, this grass was definitely not so green. In Calgary, where I am, it's been really, we've had a lot of rain, but in Drumheller, where we were to shoot this photo, it's been very, very dry. And so the grass has been very dead and dying. So it's what I'd like to do to get it more realistic is actually use the HSL sliders under the hue and actually take the green slider and bring it back maybe around 50 to 60 to give it that kind of more yellow feel. It wasn't all dead, but it wasn't nearly as kind of bright green as the vibrance would make you believe. So this is much more of a realistic look. You could even go maybe closer to 80 or 90, and yeah, let's leave it there. All right, so onto the detail panel. I'll just hide the HSL panel for now. On the detail panel, so for masking, we'll hold the Option key so that we can actually see where the mask is actually being applied to. And we're going to bring this up pretty high because this is a pretty busy image. So we're going to bring this up all the way to, let's say, around 80, kind of the mid 80s. Yeah, let's go 85, sure. And then we'll give this about... Oh, don't need to hold the Option key for that. And we'll give it about 65 sharpening. Now, as I've talked about on previous episodes, I use the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, which has a setting on the camera called high res mode. And what that is it uses the sensor's in-body image stabilization system to actually take 8 images, moving the actual sensor itself 8 directions by exactly half a pixel, and then merges those 8 images to take a full 50 megapixel image. Now, in the process of doing that, and I'm not sure if the YouTube algorithm will actually show this when it compresses the video down, but it actually introduces some kind of weird artifacting. You can kind of see it up here. There's some kind of weird edges that it introduces. So what I've figured out is that by using the noise reduction detail slider, if we bring this down to about 25 or so, it typically gets rid of most of that to the point where if we're going to be using it definitely on like a Facebook or an Instagram, you're definitely not going to see it. Even printing on sizes of about 3 to 4 feet are not going to be noticeable. I haven't noticed it on any print so far, and I've printed on 5-foot prints so far. I haven't seen it. So far this has worked well for me. I haven't printed bigger. If I find a limit to where that stops working, I will definitely let you guys know. All right, and then for the lens corrections, if we go up to the ridge here, there's definitely some kind of chromatic aberration that was introduced. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I'm just going to add some defringing here around 4 or 5 here, which should take care of most of that. All right, so let that process and we can zoom out. So that's most of the global effects that we're going to do. Oh, and the one thing I wanted to do is change the temperature, just add a little bit of warmness. So I'm going to put it around 6992 just to give it a little bit more warmth. So because it was right at sunset, the sun was just about to set behind some clouds that were behind us. So this was pretty true to what we were seeing. So as far as global adjustments, that's pretty much it. So now what we're going to work on is some of the more localized stuff. So personally, I want to work on the burning stuff, so the darkening areas first, and then we can work on the dodging after that. So one thing I want to do eventually is emphasize this brush. So as Nigel Dawson talked about in a video he just posted a couple of weeks ago, I believe, or maybe it was last week, is when you take a landscape photo in portrait orientation, the eye typically starts at the bottom and then works its way up. And so that means that this foreground interest is going to be the first thing that someone sees. So if we want to emphasize that, one way we can do that is by just darkening the stuff around it just a little bit, so that it the eye is kind of focused or forced to look to where there isn't stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken the brush on the left and the right of this brush just enough so that someone's eye is focused or kind of drawn into the middle here quicker. So we're going to go maybe like that. Put it, yeah, 0.7, 2/3 of a stop. And then we're going to do the same on, just duplicate that, and then definitely going to shrink that down and shrink and shrink. All right. Right. All right, and then we're also, the other thing I've kind of didn't particularly like about this photo is that this midground area looks a little flat and I guess uninteresting. So I'm going to create another one of these and radial filters. And I'm just going to shrink it down there and darken this area a bit. And again, we're not darkening a ton, just 2/3 of a stop, not anything crazy, just enough to give a little more emphasis to this, the S curve. All right, so done with those, and I'm happy with that. So now we're going to do basically the opposite. We're going to create a new radial filter. Ooh, don't need two. Take this one, make it bigger, and don't need the tint. We're going to invert this so that we're only dealing with what's inside. Ooh. And I'm happy with that. You know what, we'll just make it a half stop. And I'm going to duplicate that because I also want it up here where these rock formations are a bit dark. All right, and then finally, duplicate it again. I'm going to use it on the mud area. Shrink it down a bit. Duplicate. And again, you don't have to do this. I just find I like the interest that it brings and the contrast that it brings to the image. Might bring these down just a little bit, maybe to 0.4. My only complaint about Lightroom is that you can't multi-select these. You have to do them one by one. And then the only last thing is, and this is a complete personal choice here. There were some people up here on this this ridge here that I am personally going to get rid of. This is a personal choice. I don't think you have to. I'm not selling this as some kind of photojournalism or anything like that. I'm certainly not going to be entering this in any contests or anything like that. If I was, I would certainly disclose that I'm making these kinds of edits. This is more what I would consider art for me. I definitely have qualms about when artists don't disclose edits like that. When I'm just doing this for myself or for an editing tutorial like this, I don't particularly care. Again, if this was going into some kind of magazine or something, I would certainly be disclosing that. So personal choice for this one, doesn't have to happen. I'd be just as happy to leave them there, but for this particular image, taking them out. So at the end of the day, I'm very happy with this image. It all kind of comes back to what I was talking about when we were out in Drumheller, and that, you know, as humans, we really need hobbies. You know, I personally have too many's. You know, you can ask my wife. But when work and life get in the way, we really need something to escape to, whether that's, you know, TV or movies, cooking, photography, whatever. You need something that you can escape to, that you enjoy. And so this channel, this hobby, this is what I love, and I'm so glad that I'm back, but more importantly, I'm so glad that you guys are back. So my name is Justin Smith. I am not a good photographer, and until next time, bye for now.